Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessa and today's video is going to be yet another book haul because I received my August Illumicrate and Fairy Loot books, which is rather soon after I received my July ones because some of the packages got delayed. To start off today with the Illumicrate, I've already seen the design for this one and I'm not 100% in love with it. The book for this month is Voidwalker, and this is by S.A. Maclean, who is actually an author that Illumicrate has done a special edition for before. She wrote a book called The Phoenix Keeper. This one, I believe, is actually like a fantasy sci-fi kind of mix. You can already see like our character has like multicolored hair, and there's like this void or like a split almost in the world and stuff like that. It also has like a back cover that kind of like continues the design. It has a very wintry sort of aurora borealis kind of design going for it. It has a quote on the back that says, "Appease the beasts and keep them fed, but never invite them into your bed." I feel like this is going to have folklore aspect to it, and the edge kind of continues the overall vibe of the design for this one. Here are the end paper artwork. There's one of them. I think this is pretty interesting. I'm guessing that this is going to have some aspect of like a romance between these two characters, which I'm very intrigued by because our male MC kind of seems like he might be some sort of monstrous type figure, which I'm always interested in. And then here is the second part one, which I think also shows the sort of romantic vibe between them. And then there is no design underneath the dust jacket, which I'm actually quite upset about because I actually think the standard cover for this book, which I'll include, is actually really pretty and would have liked to have had that because I actually am not a super big fan of this. I actually like the artwork on the original one more, but I really like this naked hardback. Here is our main female character, and then the back has our main male character as well. I'm honestly more interested in his design. I think it's really cool. I like these sort of demonic kind of elements, and I also think sort of juxtaposing the sort of like haunting red with like the forest background is a really cool touch as well. I also really like her like rainbow hair. I think that's a really cool design feature as well, and I think the edges go pretty well with the overall design. I'm going to read off the synopsis. Fiona Mara is a smuggler. Antal is the reason her people fear the dark. Fee fairies stolen magic between worlds, stockpiling funds to keep her village free from the blood sacrifices humans have paid to Antal's immortal species for centuries. Only legends whispered through the pine forest recall a time when things were different, before one world shattered into many and the flesh-devouring beasts crept from the cracks between realities with their sable antlers and slender tails, lethal claws, and gleaming fangs. Now mortal lives have become food to pacify their carnivorous overlords, exchanged for the precious silver energy that fuels everything from transport to weaponry. When Fee is hired to smuggle a bomb into the capital, instinct tells her the risk isn't worth the pay. But the entreaty of a long-lost flame guilts her into accepting, until the heist goes terribly wrong and she finds herself thrown at the feet of a reigning immortal as payment. She's always known the dangers of her trade and of the power she wielded since childhood, allowing her to see the secret doors between dimensions, to walk the void itself. But nothing could have prepared her for meeting Antal, for the deal she'll have to make with him and what the deal will ignite. A revolution and a temptation for how sweet the monster's fangs might feel. I like this sort of twist on traditional folklore that it seems to be pulling, with having more traditional aspect trope found within like folklore. Think the original like Beauty and the Beast and stories like that, where the main character has to make some sort of sacrifice to these divine beings, or really any of the traditional stories around like fae and stuff like that. So I really enjoy that, and I like how the author is bringing in also some new aspects with having the void walking aspect. I think that can be really cool, and I am really interested to see how the world building works in this and to get to know both our character, the world, and also this new sort of almost demonic species our male character belongs to. So I don't super love the redesigned cover. I would have appreciated if they could have included the traditional cover on the backside, as I personally like that artwork a bit better, though I don't think that this is a bad design by any means. The next one is the Fairy Loot parcel. This has all three, so the romantasy, the adult, and the YA books. So the first one that is showing up is the adult book, so that's the one we're going to talk about first. The theme is See You in Hell, and this is the card that came with it, and here is the back that has some details about some of the artists that worked on it. This is one that I've seen people most hyped about. This is probably the one that I'm least excited about, but I am still intrigued by it. Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. I don't 100% know if I'm saying that term right, because I do know that there's been some debate online about how it's pronounced. I think it's supposed to be like a fantasy, dark academia that has been inspired by R.F. Kuang's own experience in academia. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to enjoy it because I have heard a lot of debate on her writing. This is actually just a redesign of the standard UK cover. Not actually too big of a fan of this cover. It's a bit plain. I do like the redesigned color palette, and I think it goes really well with the edges. I think the edges are probably so far my favorite part of the outward design. The back is very plain in my opinion. It just has a quote that says, "Alice Law, you naughty girl, you're trying to go to hell." I don't know how I feel about that. That feels a little odd to me. The tagline at the top is also "To hell with love." I don't know how romantic this book is going to be. I don't know if it's actually a romantasy. I know that there is a love plot that is kind of going to happen between the two characters, but so I think it turns out that I actually received a damaged copy because the end papers are folded. If I pull it, it's going to rip it. So I can't show you the back end paper because it literally is not showing up. But here's the naked hardback of it. It has like this Greco-Roman style art piece, and then I like the spine is on it as well. I don't know how well it's going to pick up in the lighting, but it has a really cool like spiral type design. And then there is artwork on the reverse dust jacket as well. I think I like this one better. So these are our two characters. I personally like character art a lot better than I like more decorative symbolic art, if that makes. I'm going to read off the synopsis, which is pretty short. Grad student Alice Law has only ever had one goal: to become the brightest mind in the field of analytic magic. But the only person who can make her dream come true is dead, and inconveniently in hell. And Alice, along with her biggest rival, Peter Murdoch, is going after him. But hell is not as the philosophers claim. Its rules are upside down, and if she's going to get out of there alive, she and Peter will have to work together. That's if they can agree on anything. Will they triumph or kill each other trying? I do think the concept behind this is interesting, though. As someone who has kind of had their own struggles within academic fields, I'm kind of still a bit hesitant about reading books with academic kind of plot lines to it, because sometimes it just makes me feel bad about myself. So it's more of a personal thing. And I've also heard some critiques about R.F. Kuang's writing, in particular about her lack of consideration for the effects of class and classism in education, which has personally for me been a really big issue that I have faced. I am still a bit hesitant, but I still want to give the book a try, especially because I know that she is a well-liked author, and I am interested in the kind of concepts around a dive into hell and stuff like that, as someone who has read a book like Dante's Inferno, which was a big inspiration behind Kuang writing that book in the first place. Moving forward, the second one is the YA one. This is the artwork on the card, and the theme is Behind the Veil. And this is the kind of spoiler details, so information for the artists who worked on the edition. The book is Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. I actually have the standard edition of this book already. Luckily, it has a very different design to it than the other one. The edges I think are really nice as well. They kind of continue the artwork on the cover. We have some really pretty end papers with some of the characters. Then there is a design on the naked hardback as well, which is this nice like pink color and has like a tree. And then there is a back and it has a quote: "You are the reapers of lost souls, the bright light guiding them to their eternal slumber, and without you the afterlife would fall into oblivion." This is the standard UK cover, and I believe it's in a different color. The synopsis reads, "Welcome to Blackwood Academy, a school located at the edge of the afterlife. Once a pupil passes through the Academy's arch gates, there is no way out, except if they triumph at the decennial. Winning allows a single student to be granted a choice: graduate and join Blackwood's magical elite, or cross cross over to the mysterious unknown other side. Ren and August are fierce rivals, their every encounter treading the line between hate and burning desire. Irene has never cared for rules and would destroy everything to win, even her own friend, Massacre. Olivier had almost given up on securing the nomination, but now he'll do anything to keep his beloved Amelia with him. Each of these 6 students has their own motivation to win and their own secrets to hide, but they aren't the only ones playing Blackwood's game, and a sinister, shadowy force threatens existence as they know it. I do really enjoy magical academy type books, which for me are different than sort of like the traditional more dark academia, like what I was talking about, some of the discomfort that I feel with books focused on academia. But I also like the idea of like this sort of almost like Reaper Academy. I think that's a really interesting concept, and it honestly kind of reminds me a little bit of the Grim Reaper career path in Sims 4, which I know is a bit silly, and I am intrigued by the whole concept of like the rivalries between the different characters, and I'm interested in finding out more about these characters and their different motivations and stuff like that. I do like the design for this one. It's not like blowing me away, but I do still think it's very pretty. I do personally think that the bright colors are a little bit off from like the vibe that the artwork is giving me, so it doesn't seem as super like cohesive, but maybe I'm just being too picky. And then the last book, and this is one that I'm actually most excited for because this is an author that I have read from before and was anticipating this book and was really excited to find out that it would be included in this box, and it's also my favorite design. It is Crowned by Stars is the theme, and here is the spoiler card. In the book is Warrior Princess Assassin by Brigid Kemmerer. I have read Brigid Kemmerer's Cursebreaker series, which the first book is called A Curse So Dark and Lonely. That's the only one I've read. And I really enjoyed it when I read it, and I did buy the rest of the series, but I've been kind of hesitant to pick it up because some reviews have said that there's some pretty significant changes to some of the characterization. However, this one also seems very intriguing to me because it does have a kind of similar setup to that story where we're following a trio of characters where instead of there being a love triangle, this one seems like it's going to be a poly relationship instead. So I'm very excited that we're going to be getting a poly relationship as opposed to a love triangle, because I wasn't the biggest fan of how the love triangle played out in her other series. I actually liked the connection between the main character and the other love interest more than the one that she does end up with. I also love this cover. Once again, I said before that I love character artwork, so I'm very excited with this one. I love the colors, I love the blue, and I especially love her dress. I think she looks so gorgeous. It also has very pretty edges. It's like this kind of almost like star motif that I feel like would be found in stained glass windows. It kind of reminds me a lot of edges that they did for The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, which was an earlier pick of this year. The end kind of continues the design as well, and it says, I can choose how to face my desk. Under the dust jacket art as well, I really like this design. It kind of reminds me a bit of the design that they did for the Cruel is the Light, which was the January YA pick. The Under the Dust Jacket, the standard cover with a different color palette. The original one is kind of like a cream, I think gold and like teal accents, and I really like this one. I don't know if I love this choice to include an author signature on the end papers, but this artwork is very, very pretty. I love sort of more whimsical, sort of fantasy type artwork is my kind of favorite. And then here is another one that I think also keeps those vibes as well, that has our 3 characters all together. Next, I'm going to read off the synopsis. Who should you trust? Warrior King Maddox Chiron's fire magic has earned him a ruthless reputation, but now his kingdom is slowly burning, a blaze he cannot control, and his one chance to save it is a marriage alliance with the neighboring royal family of Ostranza and their power to manipulate the weather. Who should you love? With war on the horizon, Princess Yori's home needs this alliance, but her family is hiding a dangerous secret. Their magic is fading. When she meets her intended, he sets her heart aflame, but what will he do when he realizes she's deceiving him? Who should you kill? Once a young nobleman causing mischief with Laurie in Estranza's palace, Asher is now part of the Hunters Guild. When a lucrative job arises, he cannot refuse, until he sees his targets. Someone wants King Maddox and Princess Laurie dead. Now Asher must decide what he's willing to do to protect the woman he loves and the king she's about to marry. Really like the kind of tension that's being set up between the different characters, a struggle between what they're meant to do and what they wish to do, so duty versus the heart that all three of these characters seem to have. I think our character Asher, who is the assassin, I think probably has it the roughest, just because he has to, you know, literally decide whether or not he wants to kill people. But I am very interested in this one. This one is probably the one that I was both most anticipating and most excited to read, and also my favorite design of the bunch as well. Now, usually with my book hauls, I have like a stack of books afterwards that I'll talk about that are just from my like local bookstore and whatever. However, because I'm filming this so soon after my last one, I don't have a lot of books to talk about. I only actually have received one, so I'm going to talk about that a bit here. And then I do have two that are library books that I recently picked up, so I'm also going to kind of discuss those a little bit. The first one, and this is the one I purchased, is called Dream by the Shadows, which is by Logan, Karlie. I believe this is like a Sleeping Beauty inspired retelling. Dream magic and like a forbidden kind of secret realm. The back quote says, "A shadow-cursed girl must venture into a deadly dream world to avenge her family, all while falling in love with the Prince of Darkness," in this romantasy debut for fans of Powerless and Belladonna. I have read the Belladonna series and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't a huge fan of the last book, but I did really enjoy the first and second book. This one, it has an interesting concept. I like fantasy retelling. There's also a quote on the back that says, "Beauty can be found in darkness, dreamer." And then it has a work at the back as well. There's also a sprayed edge design, which has a quote on it, which says, "In sleep he will haunt her." And paper artwork of a map of the kingdom. I really enjoy fairy tale retelling, so I am excited to get to this one, and the comparison to Belladonna also makes me interested in it as well. And then I have two books from the library. The first one is called A River of Golden Bones. This is written by A.K. Mulford, who is actually an author who has an AuthorTube channel and does a lot of videos about writing advice that I've actually really enjoyed watching, so I wanted to pick up one of her books, and this was one of the ones that seemed intriguing. Similar to Dream by the Shadows, this is also a sort of fairy tale inspired retelling, and I believe it's following two sisters who are twins, and I believe that one of them is like set to marry a prince, and so the sisters have to journey together, and there's also a lot of discovery around like identity. So I am interested in reading this one and seeing if I enjoy her writing. There is a tagline on the back which says, "If you were Sleeping Beauty's twin, lusting over your sister's big bad wolf fiance, forced on a journey in Howe's moving castle in order to kill the wicked witch, would you be brave enough to figure out what kind of hero you are?" I do think that there is a lot of fantasy and traditional folklore inspiration behind this that makes me really intrigued by it, and I also love stories that kind of have like a sibling bond at the core of them. I think that's a really interesting concept. The second one I picked up is called The Iron Flower, the second book in the Black Witch Chronicles by Laurie Forrest. I read the first book, which is called late last year, I believe, and I surprisingly really enjoyed it. I didn't really know what to expect with it going into it, because it was sort of like a popular YA fantasy from like 2016. I think it has a lot of really interesting discussion about themes like classism and racism within the fantasy medium, and I really enjoyed the main character. One of the issues though that I did have with that book, however, is it focuses a lot on romantic relationships that the characters are in, as opposed to building their friendships and sort of other relationships. How she would explore these themes around like prejudice and judgment would be by establishing like romances between people of the different groups instead of like having them just become friends or whatnot. And I didn't really like that as much because we were kind of getting like 5 different couples kind of emerging, but with very little depth to the actual relationships between them. It was just more so meant to show that like the characters were actively challenging the sort of bigotry that their society preaches, which is a good thing, but I do think that it should have been done in a way that wasn't so heavy-handed on the romance. However, I'm still interested in learning more about this series, and I did like our main character. There is like a developing love triangle in this that I'm kind of like curious to see how it will play out. But if you are in the mood for some classic YA fantasy, I would recommend this series, even though I've only read the first book. I think it is well done and does explore a lot more deeper themes that I don't feel a lot of YA fantasy sometimes doesn't do. So this is one that I would recommend picking up if you are in the mood for that more classic YA fantasy, but with some more important and relevant themes to it. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and once again, feel free to leave any comments and discussion down below. Additionally, if you enjoyed this video, potentially consider subscribing to this channel. I personally don't really like including this sort of self-promo bit, but getting subscribers and likes on the video does help with the algorithm so that it gets to more people, and also helps to let me know what kind of content people want. So I would really appreciate that support. And without further ado, thank you once again for watching this video, and goodbye.